So Patty, in the episode today, we really dig deep into generating referral relationships. Now,
yes,
we've had podcast episodes in the past that I thought were fantastic, that were much more at a higher level.
mm-hmm.
This one is very much down into the weeds of this is what you do. And we kick it off with a great interview with Joan Winnington from Metro Payment Technologies. Yes. She's spent 19 years doing this.
Yes, and she's been so successful, and I think her advice was really helpful. Any ISO or agent out there that wants to do this, I think you should take a cue from Joan.
Yeah, and then I go into the questions from the field and just talk about networking and this idea that there's another option. There's cold calling and then there's networking. But people think about it as networking is just like, well, that's where you just spend a couple hours a week on something. No, I'm talking about getting up in the morning, spending 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day networking. Right. What does that even mean? What do you do? What actions do you take? I cover all that in the questions from the field.
Really good stuff.
Thank you, Patty. And then we switch gears a little bit. So tell us about the Insiders Report.
Buy now, pay later, and what's going on in, an update in that field. I think we've talked about it in the past that this is ripe for some kind of regulation. It's getting riper.
Love it. And then, of course, our sponsor for this episode and all of our podcast episodes right now is NMI. You can go to Nancy Mary Indigo, NMI.com. Check out this amazing processor agnostic technology company that has a gateway, devices, all kinds of things. If you're looking for a processor agnostic technology partner, definitely check out NMI.com. With that being said, let's dive into our interview with Joan.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast.
Hey everybody, Patty and I are here today with Joan Winnington. She is the Director of Operations and Marketing for Metro Payment Technologies. How are you doing today, Joan?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. So Patty and I are going to talk to Joan about kind of this journey of an ISO that is built around referral partnerships, referral relationships, which is going to be a very interesting practical topic. Before we dive into that though, we'd love to get your backstory, Joan. How did you get into this crazy industry, and tell us about your path to where you're at today at Metro?
Okay. Well, I started in the industry actually going on 19 years ago. I started out moonlighting as a part-time sales rep. The owner of the company, Mark Landis, his daughter and my daughter were in the same preschool together. And I was the facilities director at the school. And he just thought I was working way too hard. I was carrying 2 phones. I had a big wad of keys. And one day he said, "You should come work for me." And I made a joke and said, "Well, make me an offer I can't refuse." And a couple weeks later, I met with him and his wife. We had lunch, and they slid an envelope across the table and said, "Here's the offer you can't refuse." And lo and behold, I've been here 19 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did you get a bigger set of keys?
No, but my daughter thought I was the most important person on the campus because I had the mostest. She said I had the mostest keys.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's crazy how I got into it. And, we were actually working out of the basement of the house that I now own and live in. So it's kind of weird. But I was a salesperson prior to that in chemical sales and equipment with a company that we sold cleaning supplies and kitchens, kitchen cleaning stuff. And
sure. Wow, that's awesome. I love it. So now talk to me about this journey a little bit though. So you come in as, it sounds like, a part-time sales professional, now Director of Operations and Marketing. What were the stops along the way? Like tell us, give us the 60-second version of your career path there. I'm kind of curious.
Okay. Well, when I first started with Metro, we were actually Delaware Merchant Services. And when I got there, I'm like, that makes us sound really small.
Right.
So we then changed our name to Metro Merchant Services. I became a full-time salesperson, and we had some internal changes in the office. Mark asked me to come in off the street. I always tell my mom, Mark took me off the street. And I kind of started running things in the office. And lo and behold, here I am 18 years later, still in the office, but still the top salesperson with Metro. So awesome. We just kind of grew. We just started growing. I was very gung-ho, and you have to believe in what you're selling. You really need to believe in what you're doing. Oh, yeah. And I totally believed in it. So we started hiring more salespeople. We got more agents on board. And the biggest thing is we managed them well. Like, we had a very good customer service department. So I still have customers that I signed up 19 years ago. Wow. Which is unheard of in this industry.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing. And a couple of years ago, I started doing a lot of technology integrations with our customers. And one of the customers said something that just hit me like a ton of bricks. She said, well, "Wait a minute, you're a merchant services company. You're not a technology company." So we changed our name to Metro Payment Technologies so that we could prove that we were more of a technology company as much as a credit card processing company.
That's a great example of letting the market define you, right?
Yep. Yep.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, in today's episode, Joan, we've touched on this issue. We've had different people on that have talked about the philosophy and the strategy and all of this. And today I want to get really, really practical, and I want to get into the weeds a little bit and make sure that our listeners really understand how to build out a network of referral, partners, referral relationships. So what I thought would be a great way to start that conversation is if you could maybe go back in time and think about the first referral partnership that you had and talk to us about that. How did you find it? Did it fall in your lap? Were you searching for it? And then what was that? Maybe give us a little bit of context there if you could.
Okay, sure. So it's all about networking. And then the second thing is follow up. And one thing that my customers and my referral partners have said is that you always did what you said you were going to do. And I think that's really important.
Yes.
You've got to always, if you make a promise, you have to stick to it.
You got to stick to it.
So during a networking event, I ran into one of the senior management of a bank out of Philly. And they decided that they would like to partner with us. They didn't have a merchant services division. So we became their third party merchant services division. They had locations in Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And basically we laid out a whole plan with them, a whole network of ideas of how we could work with each one of their branches. We went to all the branches. We met all the managers. We met the loan officers who do the loans for the businesses. And all they do is had to do a warm handoff to us. Right. And that just kind of grew into many more. Matter of fact, some of the merchants are still with us. The bank had subsequently sold, and they end up having their own internal merchant services. But we still have some of the customers that signed up, 20 years ago. Another relationship was with Jackson Hewitt. We signed up one of their tax preparers, and he was in New Jersey. Actually, it was in 2005. How crazy is that? And we just kept pursuing the business and pursuing it. And he then started marketing us and internally to Jackson Hewitt Network. And now we have over 3,000 locations across the country.
So I'm really going to challenge your memory here, Joan. And I want to go back to this bank. Okay. So I've heard this before. We met this bank. Magically, here comes a partnership. But I know that that's not how it happens because I have referral partnerships. So I want us to go back in time. So first, tell us, you went to an event. Do you have any idea or recollection of what was this event? Why were you going to this event?
It was it was more like a BNI networking event.
Okay.
But it wasn't BNI. It was another, I can't remember who it was, to be honest with you.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you were going to kind of a general business networking event.
Yep.
Okay. Good. And so at this event, how did you end up, when you talk about going to these BNI groups or Rotary Club or whatever it is, right? What are your tips of what were you doing in order to end up having this conversation? What do you have to do at these networking events? You can't just sit there, eat your lunch and leave. What are you doing at these events to have this connection?
You listen to what other people are saying. You listen to what their needs are. So I happened to be talking to one of the powers that be there, and found out that they did not have a merchant services division. They were trying to work with another vendor, but the vendor wasn't following up. So what was happening was they would give the lead off to the vendor wouldn't follow up. And so then they were losing the deposit account because they going somewhere else because they could get it all in one services.
Sure.
So I offered to do a full presentation to all the management. We put together a PowerPoint presentation. We back then, I think about some of the marketing materials we had, they were pretty awful, but we believed in what we did. And I think that was the key. We were, they knew that we believed in what we did. We stood behind what we said, and the customer service was key. We had an amazing customer service team. We still do to this day. We won awards for our customer service team. And it's, excuse me, it's all about service.
Yeah.
If you can bring on all the accounts you want, but if you're not servicing them,
right,
they're not going to stay with you. And so when we went to meet with the management, they just believed in us. They believed that what we said we were going to do. We came off with confidence. We had, I felt like they were decent tools at the time, as far as showing them what we could do.
They're relative to the competition at the time, right?
Oh my gosh. Now it's leap years a difference.
Yes.
But again, it was because they could tell that we were passionate about what we did. We believed in what we did. And more importantly, we were going to make them look good.
Yes.
They gave us a lead, we followed up on it within a couple hours. I mean, it wasn't like days, it was hours. And and I always joke about going up onto Frankfurt Avenue and walking the streets with a couple of their branch managers, going out and getting business for them. So, we weren't afraid to go out. And I love cold calling. People always call me the cold calling queen. Like, I love cold calling. I love meeting people.
Me too.
And that was key to a successful relationship with them.
So, okay. So again, I'm going to keep taking you back here. So you have this initial conversation, right? And you talk to them, which was a result of you listening, identifying a need and having a conversation. But then how did you actually, I'm sure it wasn't a straight line from there to active referral relationship. So what do you have to do to get from that point of having the conversation to then how did you arrange to have like a meeting with the appropriate decision makers, and talk about that a little bit? If you, again, whether it's that one specifically or just in general is fine, but just curious,
No, yeah. The most important thing is to find out who the decision makers are and then convincing them. We're actually actively involved in developing a couple of referral partner relationships with some credit unions and banks, and they take longer. I mean, because you have a lot more people involved and their boards and all that good stuff. But it's follow up. It's making sure that they understand how the relationship's going to work, giving them the path of least resistance. They don't want to do a lot of the work. They want to do the handoff, and they want to know that their customers are in good hands. The other thing that we did a lot of was, once we solidified the relationship that yes, they wanted us to be their merchant services provider, we created a landing page, like a form page, where each branch should just go in and put in the lead, tell us what branch it came from, and then we would then follow up with that manager and then follow up with the customer. And then we also had a CRM system that we gave the branch managers and the senior leadership logins to, and they can actually see the progression of each lead, where it went, whether it signed up, whether they decided to hold off, or whatever the case may be. So it was giving them the tools that they could see what was happening. Then we also offered incentives. We offered their branch managers, their tellers, $50 incentive. If they refer somebody, we signed them up, then we actually gave them the cash. The other thing that we did at I think it was Thanksgiving and Christmas both, we gave them turkeys. So we went up and people who didn't like turkeys, we got them ham. So
What about the vegetarians?
Exactly. Well, we didn't have that at the time.
Tofurkey they had, right?
Right. But after we met with the senior management team, it was them having confidence that we were going to work directly with each branch, and that we were going to hold their hand, and that they weren't going to have to put a lot of time and energy into it that would take them away from their regular duties.
Sure. And I realize that I'm like miles off script of what I was planning to talk about, but
That's okay.
I want to just one more question, then I want to get back on track with the other questions I had here. But so kind of restating this, you went to a business networking group. There's plenty of groups in the community that they could look at, whether that be the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, the BNI group, et cetera, et cetera. You, at that group, you found, hey, there's somebody here that represents the bank. You had a conversation to learn their needs. You found out that they, could, be helped and have value by having a referral relationship. You were able to get the meetings, emphasize customer service and all of that. Right. And then it sounds like the other thing that you just said was you had this onboarding process for leads. You made it really easy for them to send and track the leads that they sent to you. How important was that? Because I know one of the other big things is it's one thing to get a referral relationship. It's another thing to get deals from a referral relationship. So talk about how establishing kind of a concrete flow impacted, these early relationships that you had.
Well, communication is key, and obviously information is key. So when we, by using the tools, the online tools for the relationship, it made it so much easier for them to see what was happening. We had to make some changes into some of the ways that the branches were promoting the services, or the way that they were pitching it, so to speak, to their businesses. It was just fine tuning things as we went along. And then if an account decided not to board with us, we actually would go back and say, okay, why did that account not board this? In most cases, they were just not processing enough per month to justify paying a monthly fee. I mean, that was probably 95% of the reason why they didn't join us. But it was giving them the tools to see the progress. And then also they could log in and they could see their commission reports. So we would do the commissions once a month. They'd get their report and they could see what they were doing. We would give them, statistics on which branches were doing the most and which individuals were doing the most work. And then they were rewarding them as well. So they were it's kind of like a competition, like everybody, wants to do better than the other person. So
Sure.
that was really key, was making sure that they had clear paths to the information they wanted, that we were communicating with them all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
that was really like mostly what I just did for probably a good 6 to 8 months, was just working with the branches until everything was smoothly working and they were just flipping us the leads through the website.
Love it. So after saying all that, looking back at what you were doing then versus what you have now, what would be the main thing that you'd say, oh, if only I would have known then, this would have been so much easier to get more referral partners or get them onboarded more quickly. What are maybe one or two key points that if you could go back in time, you would change or improve?
You know what? I think it's asking for the referrals. I think that, it's sometimes, you don't think about asking your existing customer for referrals, and some of them can turn out to be very good referral partners.
Yes.
We end up getting a ISV company that does the software for moving companies. And that came from another one of our customers who happened to use this guy's software and said, hey, you should contact him. We did. And lo and behold, now he sends his business to us. He ties right into our gateway, and all the processing goes through Metro. So it's just asking for it. Don't be afraid to go back to your existing customers and ask them for referrals. I mean, if they love you, they're going to give you referrals. Like, who else do you know? And a lot of them are, different industries have different associations. So it's important to find out what associations are they involved in, and then ask them to invite you as a guest. So we've been invited to many other associations that some of our customers are involved in. Like, we have a big orchard. We have some very large orchards, and there's an orchard association. So we said, hey, invite us to the orchard association. Accounting firms are great. They've got the statements right there in their hands. So build a relationship with the accounting firm, and not just with the accounting firm, but with their bookkeepers who are doing the hands-on work for their businesses. It's really about just getting in the trenches and digging deep into who is right in front of the customer and has access to the information that we need to be able to close that customer.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I always make sure I do is I never walk away from a customer without planting the seed of what the next step is. I always have a next plan in place. I never go back and say, oh, well, call me when you make a decision. It's like, okay, so I'm going to give you a call on Thursday at 3:00. You think you'll have a decision by then. So it's important to plant that seed of when are we going to follow up again, so that things just don't kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah, that's really important. I know we talk about that a lot. I'm curious though, Joan, about how verticals play into the strategy. Do most of you talked about the orchards and the moving company, for example. Is that a major focus, in terms of referral partners sending over specific business types, or is it broader than that?
It's much broader than that. We have referral partners in many different industries, automotive, hair salons. It's really key to find out who are they. They talk among themselves. They are asking, like, what are you using? What should we use? It's getting into those groups where they can help you plant the seed that, hey, we can do your credit card processing. And it's also staying up with the technology. Jackson Hewitt obviously is a big customer of mine, and I'm going to their conference next week. And one of the key players there had left the company 2 years ago and went to a CBD company. And the first he was out in the parking lot, hadn't even called anybody else and said, hey, get ready. These guys need credit card processing. And back then, the CBD business was kind of more of a high risk business, but we found key partners involved. It's all about making sure that who you also partner with, that they're going to make you look good. And that was significant. So we partnered with another bank that did the credit card processing for CBD stores. We laid out a whole process. We created a landing page that the stores could go to, put in their information. We would get a notification that they filled it out, and boom, we were off to the races. And anything that you can do online is key. So they go to one page, they can fill out the MPA, and the instructions are there to do it. They can sign up for all their hardware, pay for the hardware right on the same page. They can sign up for the software package right on the same page. And now what we also did is we built a custom point of sale system for retail. And we named it Sunfire POS for the Metro brand, but we rebranded it for them with their logo, their color, so that it looks like it's their custom built POS system, and we have done a ton of customization. We beta tested it with their owners and said, hey, this is an owner's system. Tell us what you need. What will make this so much better for you? And so now we're getting ready to roll it out to the rest of the 600 stores. So it was really cool to do that. We're also the Sunfire POS. We can also we're going to be rolling that out so other ISOs and agents can have access to it. And I think the biggest thing is it's heavily supported. When we did a survey, everybody said on a scale of 1 to 5, what was our customer service? And we got 5s on straight across the board. Because if they had an issue, they would need to call somebody and have somebody there right away to help them. And so we have some of our employees decided to work second shift. So we have an on-call scheduled for the evening because a lot of the stores are in the West Coast. So, 7 o'clock their time, 7 o'clock our time. They're also open on weekends. So we have a rotating shift of our employees who take that time, and we give them comp time or pay, whatever they want to do. And so we're heavily supporting the POS as well as credit card processing. And everybody joked, oh, now you're in the, technology software business, and it's a whole different world than credit card processing.
Yeah.
But it's good, and listening to what they needed was key. So we talk to our developers every week, every day. We text message, we email. We have 2 weekly calls a week to go over everything that has happened with support tickets and what the owners need. And then we have a spreadsheet that we share that has all the different ideas, changes, updates, enhancements, and then we prioritize them based on what's critical and then what's a wish list item. Cool. So being in the technology world has really helped us. And pretty cool.
In fact, that was a question I had. It was sort of like where you are in the technology world. I mean, you talked about the POS, you talked about integrated payments. What else is on the menu?
Another big thing that we did a few years ago was we noticed that a lot of the customers didn't have ability to take donations or to have their customers pay online without spending a lot of money to have a programmer develop it for them. Uh-huh. So we created what we call a payment portal. It's a customer-facing payment portal. And there's 3 different levels. It's a standard out of the box where we can just plug it into the back of the customer's website, and it's branded with their logo and their address, and all. But the colors are a standard color. Mm-hmm. Then we have a semi-custom where when you hit the URL, when you hit the payment button, it takes them to our third-party URL, but it still looks like you're on the same page. Mm-hmm. And it's fully customized, and it looks like you're truly on the same page as the customer. And then we have a 100% fully integrated, where it's actually integrated inside of their website. So offering those payment pages was key because, like, apartment complexes, trailer parks, sure, camping places, they want all their people to pay their dues and pay their. We actually have a couple of organizations like BNI. They're going to start using our payment portal to take payments for some of their locations are using us. So that was key, giving them a customer-facing way of making payments. Delaware City, same thing. All of their utilities are paid through our payment portal.
Joan, one of the things I'm getting out of this conversation that I just think is so important, and I really want to emphasize it to our audience, and that is, I think there's this misunderstanding about building a referral network and building an ISO through networking and referral. There's this misunderstanding that you have these 2 options. Option 1 is you work really hard at cold calling and you go out and you walk into 20, 30, 40 businesses a day, mm-hmm, and you build your business that way. Then there's this other way where you go to networking events twice a week and hope that the phone rings.
Yes.
And then everybody's always like, James, I don't know this networking. I can never get that to work. And I'm like, it's not that you can't get it to work. It's that you can't get yourself to work.
Yes.
Like, the way to do this is that you get up in the morning and you work, right? And you say, okay, are there any meetings today? And if there are, when I attend that meeting, I'm going to be actively speaking with people, learning about their needs. Then I'm going to be taking business cards. And when I leave the event, I'm going to go right back to my office and I'm going to email every single one of these people with the next action steps that we agreed to when we spoke, and ask them which day next week they would like to have that meeting and what time it should be. Right. Yep. And then once you run out of that to do, then you go on LinkedIn and you look up the company and you say, well, who else works there? And you connect with them. Once they connect with you, you send them a message. Yep. Hey, I spoke to so-and-so last week. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You work. Right.
You know, I've always been a fan of, plan your day, work your plan, and try not to deviate from that. And you're not planning your day during critical time at 9 o'clock in the morning. You plan your day the night before or early in the morning before your day starts. Another key thing that people can do, and it's really worked, is when you go to these events where people are winning awards, I always write down who won the award, what company, and if they give the name of the person. And I always send a congratulatory card with my business card in it. And I think that goes a long way, so that when you're calling them, you're saying, hey, I saw that you won such and such award. It makes them realize, wow, you're paying attention to what we're doing. And you're right, James, it is. You have to put in the time. And so when we go to the events and our agents collect the business cards, our sales reps, I shouldn't say agents, we have them come back and we scan them into a program that puts them into an Excel spreadsheet. And then we take that Excel spreadsheet and we upload it into our CRM. And then we create a campaign where we actively market to them. So recently, you know about the Visa MasterCard settlement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So not only our existing merchants, but we went back to all of our canceled merchants. We went back to all of everybody that we've ever had touched in our business. We have in a database, and we put together a campaign and we sent information to them, letting them know, hey, you don't have to be our merchant, but there's money out there that potentially is yours. And even if it's $5, it's still your $5. Right. And we have just seen a plethora of response to that. And so you got to think out of the box. You can't just do, walk in, I'm just going to sell credit card processing. You got to find a way in. And this is a way in to customers that we would have never had a way into that said, hey, you guys are looking out for us. Our own credit card processing company isn't doing that for us. And then it's like, oh, well, by the way, send us a statement. You can see when you save your money. And, you're off to the races.
It's really interesting, Joan. Like right before I recorded this, I was talking to Matt Markham, is one of our new employees. And he works on the ISO AMP side of our business, where we have the technology for training and statement analysis and things like that. So it's like subscription services to ISOs. And he started, I think, maybe like a month ago. And just now I was talking to him, and, he's closed like, I think 3 or 4 deals already this week. And the idea is, we've talked about it, and it's like every day he is on LinkedIn, and it's like part of when I go into his office and I see him on LinkedIn scrolling through his feed and commenting on other people's posts.
Yes.
That's not him taking a break.
Nope.
Like, it's intentional. He is engaging with these people. And then he's telling me, hey, I started messaging with this CEO of this company because I saw his post and I sent him a message about this acquisition. And it's like, he's brand new to this business. And I'm telling you, this guy's already connected to, 70 CEOs in the payments industry, because we're working it. We're on Zoom Info, we're on LinkedIn, we're paying for whatever subscriptions we have to pay for to get the data, and we're reaching out and we're engaging. And it's like, you just do this all day, every day. And what I think is amazing about it, Joan, is, in my personal opinion, what I've seen, the networking side, if you're actually going to put 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day into networking, like legitimately working at it that much, it's going to pay way bigger dividends than 8 hours a day of cold calling.
Oh, absolutely.
But 8 hours a day of cold calling pays a lot better than 2 hours a week of networking.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? And that's, I think, the big struggle that the agents have. So, okay. So let's talk real quick here before we end this, because this has been so interesting. Yes. What are you looking for, Joan, with our audience? What are you looking for? Agents? Are you looking for ISOs? What's kind of the criteria where somebody listening would say, hey, it might be a good fit to actually work with Metro?
Anybody that's looking for a company that they can be heavily supported by. So we have a full training program for agents. So we don't just come in and hand them a book and say, go out there on the street and go do this. We have all kinds of training tools. We go out with them. We're on the phone with them. We help them close deals. Like, we show them what to do to be successful. We have a lot of tools in-house that we use. Like I said, we do these campaign marketing. We have all kinds of tools to help them be successful. We have bonus programs so that can help them to earn some bonuses up front to support themselves, so they get their residual base coming in. As far as ISOs, if they're looking for an ISO that will heavily support their customers, so they don't have to be on the phone. I've got a problem with my credit card machine, or I can't get my gateway to process an invoice or whatever. They'll be with a company that truly supports them, and they can just go out and sell. They don't have to be in the back end, hands-on with the customers. I mean, it's good that they still keep in touch with their customers, but they're not putting out the fires like we are.
Right.
So, and then also the fact that we've got all this technology. So anybody who's looking for a technology ISO, which is what we now consider ourselves, we have a lot of technology that is beneficial to customers and to agents. And like I said, one of these big things is a customized point of sale. I mean, there's so many point of sale systems out there that are out of the box. So what happens is, the customers buy this system, and if they want a specific report, or they need a certain field or whatever, it's pulling IT to get that done. Or nope, you just got to deal with what we have because this is what you bought. Whereas we are like, okay, we will sell this to you, but we will also make the customizations so that it can best help your business to grow and manage your business going forward. So the fact that we are extremely hands-on, it comes all the way down from the owner. Mark Landis is, cut from the same cloth. Customer service is key. We always say we're a better service organization than sales organization. But we do, sales is important, obviously, but again, the service is what's really key and what's kept us in business all these years. If you go to the Better Business Bureau and look us up, we have an A+ rating, 0 complaints. Now, how many ISOs do you know in this business have not one single complaint, like not even one, right? So that's almost unheard of. So the fact that's because we respond and we put out the fires very quickly to the point where customers aren't going to other means to figure things out.
Right. They know they can reach you.
Yep. And social media is key. We've hired a sales manager who is really big on LinkedIn. It's funny you say that, James, because LinkedIn has been really beneficial for him to developing relationships.
Yep.
So
I couldn't agree more. So where would you send people in our audience if they wanted to learn more about working with Metro Payment Technologies?
Well, they go to metropaytech.com, or they can give us a call at 800-771-3719 and just hit option 2 or option 3. 2 is service, 3 is sales, but either way, you'll get to somebody here, and we'll be happy to talk with them.
And give us that phone number one more time, if you would, John.
800-771-3719 or metropaytech.com.
Awesome. Joan, thank you so much for your time today. I really thought this was a great episode, very practical. I think a lot of actionable insights, as Patty likes to call it. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, you know what? You got to start each day with a smile. And you got to, when you get up in the morning, you got to say, you know what, this is going to be my best day ever.
Yep.
And you've got a positive attitude.
Yes.
If you just get up and say, oh, another day of cold calling or another day of networking, you're not going to be successful. You have to believe in what you do and enjoy it. And I do. I've been doing it 19 years and I love it. So
it comes out in your smile and in your conversation.
Oh, thanks, Patty.
Well, thanks, Joan. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
So, Patty, I want to talk today about our sponsor, NMI.com, and about the unique position that they play in the market, especially for companies that are transitioning to a focus on software.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to creating, whether it's a PayFac, which is happening a lot, a wholesale ISO, even banks who are trying to get into this. But the idea is NMI is sitting in the middle between the payment provider, like the FSP or the PayFac, whatever it might be, right? They're sitting in between that and the technology. And they have a full merchant enablement platform with omni-channel solutions. And so if you say, I'm looking for a technology partner that's not looking to take a piece of the payments, right? They are focused on the technology. You want the payments revenue. And you want something that's going to allow you to, really have a seamless integration with the software, with the technology piece.
Right.
That partner today, without a doubt, the leader in that would be NMI.com.
Yeah.
So again, they have their gateway, but they have so much more than that because they have the full merchant enablement and omni-channel solution. You don't have to get your EMV certification as an organization. You don't have to get potentially PCI compliance and all of that because they sit in the middle and allow you to do all of that. So if you want to learn more about NMI.com, just go to NMI.com and click on the contact us. They have case studies, they have insights, all of this. Check it out. I think you're going to love it. Go to NMI.com and make sure you tell them that you found out about them on the Merchant Sales Podcast.
And thank you.
This is Questions from the Field, brought to you by ccsalespro.com, the leader in merchant sales training and technology. And now, here is Questions from the Field with James Shepard.
So in Questions from the Field, I am going to continue the conversation we were just having in the interview about networking. And so, I am very, very passionate about this. And you know why I'm so passionate about this, Patty? It is because I dropped the ball so badly with it when I was actually selling merchant services full time.
Really interesting.
Yes. So
Huh.
I would say that when I was selling merchant services full time, I was very good at getting referrals from my existing clients and maintaining a great relationship with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing no proactive networking to get clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, in looking back, think that was my biggest mistake, because now the businesses that I have and the success I've achieved at this point in my career, which from a financial perspective is massively more than what I was achieving then,
Sure.
is almost entirely from networking. And I now network like crazy all the time. And it is unbelievable to me how much opportunity exists when you are networking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, though, the disconnect here is I think a lot of our listeners, they hear that and they say, okay, I get it. If I was really well known and had lots of connections, I'm sure I would get a lot of value out of networking as well.
But that's not it. I mean, Joan's a perfect example. I mean,
Right.
she might be well known in her little town, but
Right.
not in these industries.
And as I mentioned during the interview, I think even a better example is Matt Markham, who literally, you can look him up on LinkedIn. He literally just started working for me a month ago with zero connections in the payments industry.
Mm-hmm.
I have not made a single introduction for him. Not one. I probably should have,
Wow.
but I haven't. I literally have not. No one that I know have I said, hey, I got this new business development guy that you should talk to. His name's Matt. Like, no one. I haven't done it with anybody. And
Wow.
he is slammed right now with doing demos and talking to people and closing. I mean, every day I go over there and, I sold these 3 people today. I mean, every day increasing recurring revenue a huge amount. It's like unbelievable. And he's going to make a ton of money working with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because he's networking. So what I wanted to do in this little short version is I just want to break down how do you get up in the morning and network?
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean? You know what I mean? So I want to talk about the key steps to take in order to do this. Okay. So it's very, very simple. And again, the advice I'm giving right now is for that person that says, I want to maybe I don't want to cold call. I'd rather do networking. That can't be an excuse to say I want to work less. So how do you work as much or more networking as you would cold calling? So here you go. Ready? Number 1 is create a professional LinkedIn profile. That is number 1 on the list. If you're into networking today, LinkedIn is where you live. All right. Mm-hmm. So number 1 is create a LinkedIn profile. And when I say professional, I mean, you got a good headshot. You have a good, a short description of what you do, check all the boxes. I'm not going to dive into detail. Go to YouTube and watch a video on how to make a great LinkedIn profile. So make it a good LinkedIn profile. Number 2, join at least 2 or 3 networking groups in your community. Again, depending on your belief system and the types of organizations you would align with. I would say this is Chamber of Commerce. This is the Rotary organization. This is BNI. And there are many, many others, right?
Sure.
And so look at what groups exist that are just purely networking for business owners in your community. Now, when I say join them, I mean become a passionate promoter of this organization. You have to buy into the organization. I joined Rotary about a year ago now. And we switched to an attorney that goes to Rotary with me. We have switched to a bank that goes to Rotary with me. Who else am I doing business? We switched to an insurance provider for our employees that goes to Rotary with me. And I could name a few others that we've done business with. And so the idea is you come to Rotary with, or whatever organization with the attitude of, what can I bring to the other members here? When something comes up that everybody donates to, you donate. Right. When the opportunity comes up to volunteer, you volunteer. What I was actually, you probably will be surprised by this actually, Matty. Would you like to know what I was doing yesterday morning for my entire morning?
What's that?
I was washing dirty pots and pans at a local soup kitchen.
Wow.
Now, I don't say that in any way to brag or boast about.
No, but that was part of your Rotary.
Yes. And Rotary,
service, right?
Yeah, I found out, Rotary does this thing where it's not like every day. It's like once every 2 months.
Right.
They have a rotation, and every couple of months you go and you wash pots and pans to help out at the local soup kitchen. So excellent. I said, that's what you do at Rotary? I'm in.
Yeah.
Right. And so you jump in and you get involved, right? So 2 or 3 organizations, you get involved. And so that becomes your first constraint is, I'm going to do whatever I can do within reason. You don't want to seem desperate, but like within reason, I'm going to be reasonably involved with all 2 or 3 of these organizations. That's in your schedule first, right? Every event that you go to, you walk in very positive.
Right.
You walk in dressed at least as well as everybody else, if not maybe a cut above, unless that's not your personality, then you dress however, but you come in with, being appropriate, right, for the event. Then you talk to people and mostly you listen.
Right. Listening.
I have not told a single person at the Rotary, which is the newest one for me. I have not told a single person there what I do unless they have asked me. One of my rules. If I can't get enough conversation going with someone that they believe that they need to ask me what I do, then I'm not doing a good job. And I will never tell someone what I do unless they ask me. So my question is, what do you do?
Right.
Sure. Well, that sounds interesting. What are the challenges that you're facing with that? How's the current market affecting it? Right. I'm just asking them question. And I'm having a great conversation with them where they're feeling heard. And then they say, what do you do? And then I talk about that. Now, here's my next tip on this. Make sure you have rehearsed the answer to the question, what do you do?
Yeah.
And you have a 30-second answer, right, that answers that question and leaves them wanting to know more information. You want to just answer the question of what you do, right? Not why you do it or anything else. Let them ask you follow-up questions.
Yeah.
So the idea is let these people in the group feel like they're getting to know you, which they are because they're asking questions. So make a professional LinkedIn profile. Go to these groups and get really involved. Number 3, everybody in the group you connect with on LinkedIn. Right. Then that's a no-brainer. Number 4 is now use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which I personally think is like the best sales tool in existence right now for people that are selling B2B. Use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find additional people to connect with. Send them a connection request. Don't put a note in the connection request because that looks spammy. Just send them a connection request. Once they accept your connection request, then you respond to them with a message that just says, hey, great to connect with you here. And that's it, right? Now what you're going to do is you're going to go through your LinkedIn feed every day and you're going to comment when appropriate. You don't want to seem like a stalker, but you also want to, if you see something that's of interest, comment under it. See something that somebody got a new job, somebody changed careers, somebody, accomplished something. Hey, this is awesome. Congratulations. Right. So, commenting then once you've engaged with somebody in the feed, right, then send them a LinkedIn message. Hey, I saw that post about whatever. That's great. Congratulations on that. I would love to get together with you and buy you lunch. I would love to talk to you, whatever, we should connect next time I'm at the BNI, and you email about next action steps, right? So that's something that you do. And then finally you go out and again, you leverage both LinkedIn and a tool like Zoom Info. That's kind of expensive, but there's other ones you can utilize, but use these tools that have more data to look up companies and be really intentional and say, okay, if I was out prospecting, which companies would I go to? But now your approach is networking. So you're saying, okay, so who are the people at this company? Let me find them on LinkedIn. Let me find them on Zoom Info. Let me find them on Google Maps, whatever it is.
Right.
Reach out with the intention of networking. The reason I'm reaching out to you is I'm a member of the BNI, Rotary Club, and other local organizations. And I realized that I've never met you before. And I like to know local business owners. I do some business with local business owners. I'm sure you do as well. I'd love to meet up and just talk to you more about that. Would you have time if I stop by your business to drop off a business card and say hello? And you walk in and you do just that.
Right.
And you do a networking visit. So it's like a cold call, but it's not because you called first and you're doing a networking visit.
Right.
Again, you don't tell them what you do until they ask you. So that's, to me, the networking kind of law there. So anyway, a few tips for you. But I would say, again, there's real money to be made with networking and there's big money to be made with networking. Like was talked about with Joan. I mean, you could find a bank that needs a referral. It's funny. When I went to Rotary, one of the first things I met up with was a bank who needed a payment processor that they could work with. Now I don't have time to deal with that kind of thing anymore, but I was able to connect into one of my consulting clients that works with banks. And I went out to lunch with the bank president and some other people. And I made some great connections with them. And we're actually doing now some banking with them as well. But that resulted in, if I had my own ISO, I would have absolutely closed that easily. Yeah. And that was literally within maybe a month of joining the Rotary that I had that meeting. So there's a lot of big money to be made there. But again, you've got to step out of your comfort zone. And in my case, you got to step out of your comfort zone. I'm not a networker. People always assume that I am. I'm really not.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that goes to the show. I was at the WSAA. I spoke. I hung around for a couple hours, went back to my hotel. I had a couple of dinner meetings, and then I got out of there. Like, I didn't even go to the exhibit hall. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the networker. Like, I have to really come out of my comfort zone to do that. But you can do that. And when you come out of your comfort zone and you network, the opportunities that you get are just massive. So I would encourage you to maybe try to go down that path a little bit, see how it feels.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So anyway, there's my tips for the day on networking.
Got me all psyched.
This is the Insider's Report with Patty Murphy, brought to you by the Green Sheet.
So, James, I think the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's a real hard acronym to slide off your tongue, but I think they're about to drop the hammer on buy now, pay later schemes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Last week, the agency, actually, back in December, you'll recall, they launched an investigation into this business, requesting detailed information from the 5 largest players: Affirm, Afterpay, Klarna, PayPal, and Zip. And just as a sort of background, the CFPB, and some people may not know, was created under the Dodd-Frank Act back in 2008. Financial Reform Act, and it has an enforcement authority over all providers of credit, including non-bank providers like BNPL. Now, we know that BNPL has been rising to prominence over the past decade, but it really took off during the pandemic. In the past, the schemes tend to concentrate on like apparel and beauty sectors, high-end clothing.
Yep.
They've branched out now and include travel, which of course you gave us an example of that recently.
Mm-hmm.
Pet care, which I've taken advantage of numerous times.
Yep.
And groceries, which really surprises me actually. But and it's become ubiquitous online. There's so the agency estimates that since 2020, they've seen a 10-fold increase in usage.
Wow, in 2 years.
In 2 years.
That doesn't surprise me.
So when it sent out these questionnaires to the firms, and it did an analysis, and they found that these firms are approving more loans, 73% in 2021 compared to 69% in 2020. Late fees are up. Delinquencies are on the rise. Charge-off rates grew from 1.83 in 2020 to 2.39 in 2021. Now, Rohit Chopra, who's the director of CFPB, said in a statement that he's concerned that these firms are building business models that are dependent on digital surveillance. So not only are they concerned about the debt load, but they're concerned about the data mining.
Yeah, sure.
He said, buy now, pay later has mimicked parts of big tech surveillance model to harvest and monetize data in ways that banks and credit unions have typically avoided. They can leverage data. Was interesting. He said they can leverage data and user interface design to gamify shopping and lending, which I find, very interesting.
Sure.
But I see how it applies particularly to younger, to people in Gen Z and Gen X. And he said the investigation ID'd several areas where these firms are not providing the same rights and protections that credit card companies are obligated to provide.
Yeah.
For example, they don't have clear and concise disclosure of terms, as other lenders must, and they don't have really clear dispute resolution steps. So I think those are things that are going to be easily, sort of the first prong in trying to regulate these firms.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the data harvesting. These interfaces enable firms to use data to determine what products we see through paid product placement, which of course opens the door to, even bigger things like potential to price products based on our behavior, for example.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the big data stuff is crazy where, they know how price sensitive I might be for an item versus someone else.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they, that's an interesting thing. I mean, I actually really believe that one of the main areas of legislation, this is a bit off topic, but I mean, this idea of pricing consistency is a big deal. I mean, it's no secret that, Amazon is really the king of this. One of the big ways they make money is, you and I are simultaneously looking at the same product and the price is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I'm all
I'm
about
not
the
sure
free
how I
market.
feel. I mean, there's part of me that says if I get the lower price, I like it. Right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in terms of, the grander
it's-
scheme,
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, to me, it's more an issue of how are you getting lower price, right? Like,
right.
If you're just saying, in other words, I guess the real question is what data, and this is the same thing with this BNPL, what data should be able to be lawfully used in pricing products?
Yeah, I think that is.
Should you be able to hit a data provider and find out my income, and then that determines the price of the product? I don't think so. I think that crosses a moral line.
That crosses a line. Yeah. I mean, especially if they're looking into things like our income, right?
Right. I could see maybe saying past purchasing behavior on their site.
Right. Patty likes to buy blue jeans. Right. Right. you know,
and they know what you've paid for blue jeans in the past.
Right.
And so they're using their own data to dictate something. That's for the free market.
Right.
But for them to say, well, you've never purchased blue jeans before, but this is the first time on our site, but I know that you make X.
Right.
So here's how we're going to price your blue jeans. I think that's crossing a line.
I agree. And
I think same for the BNPL. You know what I mean? They're going to, they're going to, and I could see them kind of saying, well, we know how much available BNPL credit this consumer has.
Mm-hmm.
So let's base the pricing based on that and say, here's a bundle of things that you could buy. And guess what? You won't have to pay anything for it today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see that being a pretty big problem over time.
I could see that being a problem, especially, there's people I know who are not, shall we say, financially savvy.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Who see things like that and say, oh, great. I didn't pay anything for this. I'm going to take it.
Right.
And then a few months later, they're like, oh my God, how can I pay this bill down?
Right.
And I think that's, for example, why these delinquencies are up and the charge-offs are up. There's a lot of people, I know personally of people who are taking advantage of these schemes who should not be taking advantage of these schemes.
Yep.
Who have like 4, 5, 6 of these BNPLs outstanding. And, it's like, wait, I one person in particular I'm thinking of who wants to buy a house. I'm like, the first way you can buy a house is stop having all this monthly money going out to something that's not even being reported to the credit bureau for you.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
So anyway, so I'm just to wrap up what the CFPB is talking about. They want to come up with interpretive guidance or rules to ensure that these firms, adhere to the baseline protections, credit protections, curbing data surveillance.
Yep.
And, ensuring that they're subject to the same regulatory examinations as credit card companies, whether that be through federal or state regulators. So here's just a quick, thing is Chopra said with roughly $900 billion in outstanding credit card debt and buy now pay later lending rapidly gaining share, we're going to continue to make sure that this product is fair, transparent, and competitive. Now, I was writing this up this morning before our podcast, coming up with my thoughts, when I got an email that just sort of blew my mind. It was from an ISO that was using a buy now, pay later, selling a buy now, pay later service from QuickFee, who was informed that QuickFee is getting out of the business effective October 15th.
No more BNPL for QuickFee.
No more BNPL from QuickFee. Now, I don't think that this is a direct result of the CFPB, but I'm wondering if it might be a direct result of, charge-offs and delinquencies, things like that.
Well, and I think also think about the competitive pressure of Apple,
yes,
getting into the business. I think that also had a big impact on why they're doing this whole regulatory deep dive, because if Apple's going to get into it, Apple has a fair bit of data at their disposal.
A whole lot of data at their disposal. Yeah. And, and so I think that, let's put it this way, the horse isn't necessarily out of the gate, but it's getting ready to run, and if they don't do something soon, it could have implications for the credit card industry.
Yeah.
And it could have, dire consequences for consumers.
Yeah.
Less savvy consumers, perhaps. Still.
Right. Sure. Well, very interesting stuff, Patty. It'll be interesting to see how the BNPL develops over the next 12 to 36 months,
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Whether you are an industry veteran, processing executive, or just trying to learn about the payment space, we appreciate your time. The Merchant Sales Podcast is a joint production of greensheet.com and ccsalespro.com, and we hope you will tune in next week for more information and tips on building your merchant services business.